Here we go. Salute to Knicks Nation on this Monday afternoon. Matinee edition of KFTV Live presented by KnicksFanTV.com. It is playoff time. The regular season is over. The Knicks go 47-35 on the campaign, but now it's money time. So this week we got an action-packed week of content here at Knicks Fan TV. And on today's show, I had to go all the way to South Florida to get this guy off the pickleball court. He was busy in his retirement playing shuffleboard and doing all those things that Floridians do. But we had to talk to him, man. Welcome back to the show. Formerly of the New York Post, beat writer of the Knicks for over 20 years, Marc Berman returns to Knicks Fan TV. And we're going to talk about some of the key storylines for this Knicks Cavs series and get Mark's take on all of it, man. So hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Call us up 657-383-1509, or you can hit us up on the Knicks Fan TV Discord. Money time. Mark, how you feeling, man?
Doing great, CP, but not pickleball, but tennis. I'm not. In 10 years, I'll be reduced to the pickleball court when I can't run around. But I do want to just start out to, I don't know if you can see this. My wife recorded it.
Oh, hey, okay, there we go. Relax.
Yeah, my wife recorded for me for some reason. I didn't even understand it. But things are going great. Honestly, this is the first time I've kind of started to miss the beat. Playoff time is what it's all about. And 2 years ago at the Garden, Game 1 versus Atlanta, that was one of my favorite nights of my career. Even though the Knicks lost at the buzzer with Trae Young over Frank Ntilikina, what a special night. The Garden had never been louder. First time 16,000 fans packed the arena in over a year. And it was just an amazing, amazing night. And unfortunately, Game 1 is in Cleveland, but I imagine that is a loud arena. I don't know if it's still called Quicken Loans Arena. I'm not sure what it's called now, but that is a very loud arena. They have very good fans. It's going to be a tough Game 1 on the road. Not a good, well, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it, man. And as you mentioned, 2 years ago, with this team making it back to the playoffs, I was there for Game 1. The electricity, you could feel it. I had goosebumps. I mean, the MSG was just rocking, man. I had never heard anything like it. And so hopefully we could recreate that feeling when the Knicks return to New York for Game 1. But let's go back through this season, though, Mark. 47-35 is where they finished on the campaign. 5th seed in the East. Did they surpass your expectations, or how do you feel like this team did this season?
Oh, definitely. After last season's horror show, I mean, this was just an amazing turnaround. Brunson, obviously, the MVP of the team. Thibodeau privately feels that Brunson should have been the all. If the Knicks only had one All-Star selection, Thibodeau thought it should have been Brunson. As amazing as Julius fared this season, Jalen was the MVP of the season for the Knicks. What a great signing. If you remember that draft night, a lot of Knicks fans, maybe you included, were baffled. What are the Knicks doing, giving up their lottery pick to create cap space? He's a leader. He's a winner. He's a great point guard. But against Cleveland, it's going to be interesting. He doesn't have Luka on his side. And, Garland, defensively, we talk about Jalen's offense mostly, but defensively, he was okay, but Garland's going to be a handful for him. That's going to be a tough matchup, I think, and a potential key to the series.
Yeah, no question about it, because outside of Okoro, you're not really going to be able to hide Brunson anywhere, and you're not going to put RJ on Garland, right? So Brunson's going to have to most likely guard Darius Garland to start this series off, and then on the flip side, we'll see what the health of Isaac Okoro will be by game time. But Okoro's going to try to be a problem for Brunson, and I can imagine that they're going to try to double team him a lot and try to take the ball out of his hands. So it's going to be interesting to see not just how he responds, but the supporting cast as well. And I'm in terms of that supporting cast, it starts with Julius Randle, man. The health of Julius Randle How will he look? Will he be ready for game one? I know they will give us an update on Thursday, so we'll see if he'll be ready for game one. But he's going to be critical for me for this team to win this series. What's your take on it?
Without a doubt, he's gonna. I would be shocked if he wasn't on the court. I mean, he was trying to stay in the game that night against Miami with his ankle falling off. So I would be shocked if he wasn't out there for game one. What you said about Brunson and him scoring against an Okoro, also, Jalen likes to get inside, and Cleveland has a lot of length there with Allen and Mobley, so that's going to be tough for Brunson. But getting back to Julius, listen, I would be more optimistic if we knew that Julius was 100%, and we don't know what kind of shape he'll be in. Historically, we've done stories about Julius coming back from an all-star break, and his first game back is always lousy. And he admitted, I finally asked him about it, and he goes, yeah, I don't know what it is. I take an all-star break, I come back, and I don't have the rhythm. So he's a rhythm guy, and I'm worried about not just his health, but what kind of rhythm he has after not playing, since March 27th or something. He's been out for a while, so it's a big concern. And listen, it's not just about the offense with Julius. He's a great rebounder, doesn't get credit for it. They need rebounding in this series. Cleveland has a lot of height, and Julius as a rebounder is going to be crucial. So just having him on the court rebounding the ball will be a blessing. Because Obi Toppin, I know your fan base, and there's a big love affair with Obi, but the rebounding fact, he was very good rebounder in college. Has not been a rebounder in the NBA.
Yeah, that will be critical. And because, Cleveland as a team, they're not a great rebounding team, but you have Mobley, you have Allen there in that front court to tango with. The Knicks are going to have to get physical and get on the glass against those guys. And if Julius isn't 100%, as you said, his conditioning will come into question. How will he fare after missing time and then jumping right into playoff intensity? That's yet to be determined. So I think Obi's role is going to be very critical, not just offensively. He's shooting the ball very well, which you like, especially from downtown. But his defense and his rebounding against those guys, if they need him, he's going to have to be there to deliver if Julius can't.
Yeah, CP, I heard you with Dexter on the SNY New York Post show, and you mentioned how Obi is shooting the three ball beautifully. And he had a great close to the season, but that's, again, Obi playing in relatively meaningless games and doing really well, like he did late last season. A lot of meaningless games, Obi draining three-pointers and doing what he does. Let's see in the heat of the playoffs how Obi fares. I will say against Atlanta in that playoff debut for him, he was good. And he electrified the crowd. He showed a fearlessness. So that makes me feel good about Obi's situation going into this first round playoff matchup. But listen, you need Julius and Obi. I don't think on paper Cleveland is a much better team than the Knicks if Julius is a non-factor.
Yeah, no question about it. And as you mentioned, Obi's debut in that Hawks series, we were looking for more playing time for him to be able to pull Capella away from the basket, open up the spacing a little bit more, and then provide that three-point shooting. I'm looking at that situation similarly here against Cleveland. If you have the Twin Towers in the middle of Mobley and Allen, Mobley's a top defensive big man in this league, defensive player of the year candidate. So if Obi can pull him from the basket, open things up, open the driving lanes up for Brunson, for RJ, for IQ, whoever it is, I think that would certainly be a plus. But it's going to start with his three-point shooting, and it's going to end with his defensive rebounding. On to Quick, because I think outside of Jalen, outside of Julius, I think Quickley's role is going to be vital here to not just provide a spark from the bench unit, but, Tibbs likes to use him as a closer. You like the fact that he can help move the offense, get the team in rhythm. He can play make. I think that's going to be vital, especially if Cleveland tries to target Brunson. You're going to need another guy that can help play make for others and create shots for himself. To me, Quickley's ability to hit those shots and be efficient shooting as of late is going to be vital in this series.
I mean, that's what makes this Knicks team a whole lot better than the one 2 years ago when Quickley was just a rookie. So, listen, also, besides the offense and the three-point threat, Quickley is playing such good defense.
Yeah.
His defensive IQ is really strong. Speaking of some scouts, the way he is able to get through screens, he seems to be in the right place at the right time. He's so aggressive. Defensively, he'll be key also. But listen, he's got that 3-point shot. That's why they drafted him, because
Yeah.
he was a 3-point shooter. But he has added more than just his trademark floater. He's doing other mid-range things to
Yeah.
open up things for himself. So he is a big reason why the Knicks are a better team than 2 years ago, and he'll be crucial. And I think he's also fearless.
Yeah.
I don't think anything scares him. Great free throw shooter, of course. Free throw shooting so important, which that's Julius's big addition. He's getting to the free throw line a lot, and
Hmm.
he's been draining free throws. So Quickley is a big X factor because listen, you got Cleveland, you got LeVert
Yeah.
coming off the bench, and listen, I remember watching LeVert with the Nets in the bubble. He was sensational
Mhm.
in the playoffs uh, and in the bubble, and he could be a big X factor for the Cavaliers if they don't stop LeVert coming off the bench. And if LeVert outplays Quickly, the Knicks could be in trouble.
Yeah, big time. And Levert's a guy, he can get it going in bunches. We've seen him. He's capable. There's one game where he and Spider Mitchell combined for almost 80 points. And so we know Levert can get it going. And I think one guy that's going to be tasked with slowing him down, whose defense hasn't been that great, Mark, has been RJ Barrett, man. And when we look at this next season, we talk about the contributions from the young guys. The fans are down on RJ, Mark. He signed the contract, the 4 years, 120. The expectations, as you know, have risen, but we just haven't seen that jump in year 4 for RJ Barrett that most fans expected. What do you think about RJ's season this year and his role
Yeah,
in the
well,
series?
anytime I wrote a negative thing about RJ's future and potential, I just got cremated on Twitter. Everyone
Mm,
saying, "Why are you so negative about RJ?" Blah blah blah. But he again did not make the jump. Uh, his 3-point shooting, it's so up and down. He was not good also 2 years ago against Atlanta in the playoffs. He
right.
did not step up, but he was much younger then. Defensively, listen, when Walt Frazier takes you to task on television about your defense,
Yeah.
something is not right. Uh, he needs a big series for the Knicks to upset Cleveland because, listen, I don't look at the odds and all the draft kings and stuff, so I don't know exactly what it is.
Mm,
But the Knicks are the fifth seed. They are the underdogs here, especially in Julius's situation. But RJ, number 3 pick in the draft. Listen, Zion is not going to play, and Ja Moran had his issues. So like RJ may be looking pretty good compared to those guys, but the Knicks need RJ to be consistent and not be that erratic player where one night he could go 0 for 8 from the 3-point line like
yeah.
Reggie Bullock did against Atlanta, which is another reason why the Knicks are better. Like they needed Reggie Bullock 2 years ago against Atlanta to perform the way he did most of the regular season, and he also had a terrible shooting series
Yeah.
against the Hawks in the playoff route by the Hawks.
And at 31% shooting from 3, the Cavs are going to let RJ shoot it. Right? They're going to collapse that paint on him. They're going to give him those open jumpers. So you want to see him knock him down since he's come back from the illness, hasn't been able to shoot the ball as efficiently. He's been able to finish a little bit better on his drives, which is good. But against his Cavaliers team, that's number 1 in opponents' points in the paint, they're not going to let him come inside. And there's going to be a lot of attention there. So for one thing for RJ is I want to see him be able to play make off of those drives, not just force everything. It's what Tibbs has talked about. Don't always force the issue, but also see if he can knock down at a respectable amount from 3 because the Knicks are going to need it.
Yeah, I mean, even late last season when everyone was throwing bouquets at RJ, Tom was always talking about we need RJ to be able to make the right decision when he's getting the basket and he's double teamed. And unfortunately, it's still an issue. And, sometimes you can't teach that. Sometimes that's just instinctive. Those
Yeah.
amazing playmakers like Jason Kidd, they just have it built in them. And right now, RJ is just not producing that way as a distributor.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we've seen over his 4 years with this team, or at least the 3 years with Tibbs, is that Tibbs has never really been afraid to sit him in in return for someone else, like a Quickley or a Hart or even a Grimes. And so I think the depth of this Knicks team this year, yes, we want to see RJ playing better, but I think they have the depth where in that fourth quarter, for offense and defensive purposes, Tibbs will quickly go to quickly, no pun intended.
No pun intended.
Hart and Grimes. How about Quentin Grimes, Mark? Last 10 games, he's shooting damn near 50% from three. Grimes has arrived.
Listen, I thought Quentin before recently was a little disappointing, not consistent enough. Obviously started the year hurt, didn't have a great training camp because of his injuries, but he's a smart player. He's a great defender. He can be a three-point sniper. We haven't seen enough of it, but yeah, he closed very well. Another key guy in this series. But again, this is his first playoff. It's a different ball game in the playoffs. It's a different spotlight. So, at least RJ's been there before. Even IQ has been there before. Obi has been there before. This will be the playoff debut for Quentin Grimes, and let's see if he's able to step up and play like he did in these last few games. Which, unfortunately, these last few games didn't have the same meaning.
Yeah.
So to step up now, and listen, I think it's great that the Knicks have 5-6 days off. It's almost a week. Saturday is the debut. They played yesterday because the Knicks have the coaching edge. I mean, Tom Thibodeau is a master, and he's going to have a great game plan defensively, and he's got a lot of days to come up with it. And Bickerstaff is a good coach. He's a solid, good young coach. He's not Thibodeau.
And speaking of Grimes, he's going to have his work cut out for him because Donovan Mitchell has not slowed down one bit since the last regular season matchup between these two teams. He went on a tear, 4 straight 40-point games, averaged a career high, a career best, 28.3 points per game. What do you think about Donovan Mitchell and his impact on this series, man?
It's funny that we haven't discussed Donovan yet. Listen, the last 2 seasons, Donovan had a inefficient playoff. Especially last year in the first round against Dallas, did not play well, did not shoot well. 2 years ago, his efficiency stats were mediocre. And the Utah Jazz just did not go as far as they thought they would. Mm-hmm. So this is a big moment for Donovan. He had an incredible season, and I know it's still a debate with Knicks fans. Should they have pulled the trigger? Should they have not pulled the trigger? I still feel they should have pulled the trigger, but we'll see. Listen, Donovan going against the Knicks, the NBA has to be licking their chops. I think this is maybe the closest first-round matchup. It's going to be a very closely contested. And I think every game comes down to a couple of possessions. Yeah. And Donovan's a great closer, has been in the regular season, and that's where the Knicks – you'd rather have the ball in Donovan's hands, unfortunately, than Jalen Brunson or Randle's hands for a final shot. So if a couple of these games come down to the final possession, you give the edge to Cleveland when you have a Donovan Mitchell. And he's going to want this series so badly. Maybe he's going to have too much adrenaline going, but he's a problem. And the Knicks have to hope that he has erratic nights, and they have to hope that his playoff this year resembles more like last year when Jalen Brunson's Mavericks kicked Donovan's Jazz out of the playoffs.
Yeah, no question about it. And salute to Knicks Nation. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. We're talking to the great, the retired Marc Berman, formerly of the New York Post, man, friend of the program. Everybody, salute to everybody on this lunchtime hour. Previewing the key storylines of this Knicks versus Cavs matchup. We're looking very much forward to it. April 15th can't come soon enough. But, Mark, you know what? I might give the Spider a slight edge in the clutch. But Brunson's no slouch, man. 3rd in the league in crunch time. This is why the Knicks got him. And this is why I'm confident that when these games do get tight in the fourth quarter, when we don't have to go to Julius anymore. We don't have to go to RJ. You put it in 11's hands and get out the way. Let him create. To me, he is an elite shot creator, something that this team hasn't had, especially at the point guard position.
And when you go back to the Western Conference playoffs last year, Jalen was spectacular. I know he had Luka on his side, but he's shown this regular season it wasn't all about having Luka as a teammate. So it's a great sign that Jalen has won a couple of NCAA championships and got the Mavericks close to the NBA Finals. Uh, that's the leader you need. That 2 years ago, they didn't have a leader going into the playoffs who had
Yeah.
been there before. Julius Randle, amazingly, 2 seasons ago, making his playoff debut. And so hopefully Julius will have that experience now. He knows what it's like. So having Jalen, be in that locker room, explaining to these guys how the playoffs are different is vital. But with the ball in his hand, if I needed a final shot, I'm still taking Donovan. But yes, Jalen is a big upgrade from the Knicks for what the Knicks have had since maybe Carmelo, right? Although Carmelo, unfortunately, he was an amazing closer with the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
But then after the 2012-13 season, his
Lost.
clutch stats were not there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jalen, being able to go to Jalen for a final shot is a big improvement. Listen, Julius can draw a foul and all, but as a closer, he did hit the miracle shot against Miami, but as a closer, he still has not proven enough.
How about the battle of the benches, Mark? I think the Knicks bench is the one that can swing this one with the way that Quickley's playing. The Hart acquisition I thought was tremendous for this team. He's going to be closing. And the thing is that he'll also be guarding Donovan Mitchell. So Mitchell won't have a night off between Grimes and Hart guarding him the way Hartenstein has turned his season around on defense and rebounding and even his passing ability. I think this Knicks bench is stronger than Cleveland's, and I think they could swing the series.
Well, that's a great point about Hardenstein, because first of all, this is Mitchell Robinson's playoff debut.
There you go.
2 years ago, broken hand. Nerlens Noel is their starting center. He had a very poor series against Atlanta. I guess he was a little gimpy, but we'll see what Mitchell brings to the table also. And if he's not bringing enough to the table, you're right, their backup center will be huge. And he had a great finish to the season. It was a very good signing. I'm told that the Clippers did want to re-sign him, and the Knicks just the Knicks did well with that. They did very well with that. So the bench, LeVert is terrific. Listen, Osman, unfortunately, there's some snipers off the bench that could hurt you. Osman is a good three-point shooter. If he could give them a few three-pointers off the bench, that's going to hurt the Knicks. But having IQ, and then even in a pinch situation, do you put Miles McBride in there for defense if they're getting torched? Maybe Miles comes in. I mean, Thibodeau has more weapons off the bench than he did 2 years ago in the playoffs.
Yeah, no question about it. And when you mentioned McBride, and we talked about Grimes, we talked about IQ, the debate in terms of whether or not to have gotten Mitchell, I think that will rage on, especially throughout this series. But as you look back on this season, Mark, the Knicks' young players have been every bit of a factor in this team's success. And you got to give credit to Leon Rose and his staff this year, because after a lackluster offseason last year, every move they've hit on, including their draft picks, have contributed. The moves that they made this year, including their draft picks over the past, have contributed to this 47-win season.
Well, that summer after the playoffs was not a lackluster free agency. It was a disaster.
Yeah.
But they were able to, get back on track. And it's shocking that Derrick Rose fell off the map, and Evan Fournier, obviously, Thibodeau just did not trust him as a two-way threat. 25th pick in the draft to hit on Quentin and Quickley is remarkable. And Miles at 36 is excellent. Obi was in a tough situation behind Julius. Scouts still think you put him in a different place and he's a different player with more confidence and a starter.
Yeah.
But we don't know that yet. But the draft has been excellent. Leon does deserve a lot of credit. Walt Perrin, he really hired a lot of good people. Wesley has a lot of influence, but, he's never been a scout, but he's been around the game, and he was one of the people who really pushed for Quickley that night, as did the former assistant coach Kenny Payne. So you do have to tip your hat to Leon. He would get more credit if he ever just talked to the media, but it looks like the beat writers just barely mention him. They don't give him the credit he deserves because he hasn't spoken to the media. I've lost count, but it's going to be closing in on 2 years. I mean, he didn't even do an MSG Network thing this year during the season, I don't think.
No, he didn't come to Knicks Fan TV either, man. He's been ducking us since he got here.
That's the worst offense.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Leon's done well. And I'm surprised that even after the trade deadline, making that Hart move, getting rid of Reddish, which was a mistake, and getting Hart, just doing why don't you do a media availability to explain it and talk about their success? I'm just baffled by it. But anyway, hats off to Leon and his staff.
What do you think should happen? That the Mavs have come under fire all week last week for their blatant tank job. And the Knicks pick that they acquired in the Porzingis trade is hanging in limbo right now. What do you think about what happened there and what the league should do?
Well, covering Mark Cuban for so many years, he obviously, this was just more than a tank job. This is sending a message to the league about your play-in tournament, about how you have let load management dominate this league, allowing teams to sit players all the time. When you're looking from a Dallas perspective, this isn't about getting a few more ping pong balls. This is about keeping your draft pick. So it's understandable to fight this play-in tournament just to get the 8th seed, just to play the 1st seed. You kind of understand where the organization is coming from. I think Cuban sent a message to the players saying, I'm dissatisfied with what you guys did this season, and we're pulling the plug. The big question is, what can Silver do? Is this going to be a lawyer-up situation? So many teams have sat key players for games. So how could you all of a sudden punish Cuban massively when it's being done all the time? And I'm sure Cuban has a lot of lawyers by his side.
Yeah.
And I think what Cuban wanted to do was put this issue out there again, because Silver thought the tanking thing was a little less of a big deal because of the play-in tournament, and Cuban turned the tables on him and said, no, we don't care about a ridiculous play-in event to get the 8th seed. I would like to see that. I don't know what you feel, but it was a nice change of pace. I'd like to see them go back. I don't think they are. I think that this is set in stone, but I'd like to go back to the regular 8 seed format. But it creates interest. This will be fun these next few days watching the play-in. Are you a big proponent of play-in basketball?
I like it just for the fact that it's extra basketball. Last year was pretty entertaining with the way the Pelicans were able to make it in there. Obviously for the league, it's extra TV time, extra revenue there. They tried, as you said, to add that in there to avoid tanking, but as you said, Cuban tried to send them a message, man. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. What about the in-season tournament, Mark? What'd you take on the in-season tournament?
Again, I don't like it. I know they do it in England and like in the soccer.
Yeah.
And I never understand what is going on. I'm trying to figure out what is this tournament about? Why?
Right.
I don't know enough about it, but I know enough not to like it. I feel like I don't understand the purpose exactly. Like what the winner of the tournament, I just don't get it. I don't think it's needed. And, Silver's trying to create more interest in the regular season.
Right.
The real solution is to cut down the regular season games and go from 82 to 70, but that's going to cause a loss of revenue. And if this contract's outrageous, they're not going to do that. But 82 games is too long. And that's why the play-in tournament, I feel the 7th seed shouldn't be bounced out after a couple of games. They fought their way to the 7th seed.
They earned it.
And then they may not make the real playoffs.
Yeah.
But what do you feel about the regular season in-season tournament?
I think it's ridiculous. I
Yeah.
think it's not soccer. Like soccer, you're able to do that because you have so many teams and so many leagues and so many dream matchups that won't happen during the regular season. But in the NBA, like for example, if Dallas were to win, the Little Caesars in-season tournament and then not make the playoffs, then who cares, right? Like who cares?
Yeah. I bet it's a 1-year experiment. Did they announce it more than just next season?
I'm not sure in terms of the length, but they did announce kind of like the rules and everything. So I had heard about this from last year that they were trying to get this done. So
yeah, he was talking up, but I'm hoping it's just a 1-season thing, and we'll see how it goes. But I don't think it's going to be a durable situation. Yeah. And I think the players, they also will have trouble getting motivated for it. And, listen, it's another thing for TV, I guess, and they're going to promote it and hype it. But we'll see if the fans really catch on to it.
Knicks Fan TV Live. So to everybody in the chat, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. We're talking to the legend that is Marc Berman making his return to Knicks Fan TV. Mark, we opened the show. You mentioned how with playoff time is the time that you really missed a beat. What was your favorite memory in those years and covering the team in the playoffs?
Well, 2012-13 was such an exciting regular season, and we were writing about that team as a championship contender.
Yeah.
And, that Boston series was fantastic. Mm-hmm. I mean, that arena in Boston is so loud also. And to beat Boston. But then the Pacers, I still have nightmares of the Roy Hibbert block on Carmelo. It turned around. It literally, forget about just eliminating the Knicks from the playoffs. It sent them into a tailspin that lasted many seasons until they finally made the playoffs. Yeah. But yeah, unfortunately, 23 seasons, and I probably covered 4 playoffs or 5 at most. So unfortunately, there's been a lot of years where in March 1st, the games wouldn't matter anymore. And it was very depressing going to the arena that night, and the games didn't matter. And that's why, last season was difficult. My final season was difficult. I mean, it was such a disappointment. And then to have this happen, it's great. And now the beat writers have a full week to hype it up like it's the Super Bowl with the days off and writing about this series. So that's really the fun part of the beat when you head into the playoffs and every little thing is magnified and everything, because the regular season is such a grind. 82 games is too long. Yeah. But then you come down to this moment and it's just what it's all about.
Who's your favorite player to cover over those last 20 years? That gave you maybe the most sound bites or most professional?
Yeah, Carmelo was up there. I've said this before. There wasn't a question you could ask Carmelo that he would dismiss or make you feel bad about asking it. He answered every question with a candidness. He was always a delight. Very rarely, even after a tough loss, he was disappointed, but not in a way where he was abrasive to the media. I can't say the same about Julius Randle. Right. When things are going bad, Julius gets a little surly with us, or did get surly with us. I think this season he was better, obviously. But Carmelo was a real gentleman on the court and off the court. I don't know how it's going to end for him. I was a little surprised that the Knicks didn't try to bring him on, but things were going so well, they didn't want to tinker with that locker room. That's how Leon is. Like when, I think it was 2 years ago at the trade deadline, they didn't do anything because Leon was afraid of making a little upgrade to mess up what they had going. So, but yeah, no, Carmelo was probably number one. Amare also was a joy. He was a great guy in the locker room, great to the media. I just wish his career with the Knicks had lasted longer and, the injuries didn't take its toll.
Yeah, likewise, man. And when during Julius's hot stretch, there was a big debate amongst the fan base. Who's the better Knick, Julius or Carmelo? I said it's obviously Melo, but also I pointed to that fact that he never ran from the media, when things got tough. That's one thing. Carmelo always held himself accountable and spoke. He never dodged, and the Knicks never said he's not available. He always put himself in that microphone and took the bullets for the team.
Yeah, he did. And if, I think even this season, there was a couple of times where Julius didn't talk. But last season was just a disaster with Julius off the court and on the court. His media relations was at its worst. And I think that kind of shaped the season in some ways, where his statistics weren't horrible, but all the other trappings attached to last season was unseemly. And it's great to see his rise. And he has a very nice family. I've been on the plane with them during road trips, and it was fun to watch from afar Julius's rise and the fans getting back on his bandwagon.
It's true indeed, and they're going to need him to win this series, Mark. So with that being said, I'm going to let you get back to the tennis courts and doing what you do best down there in retirement life. But I need a prediction from you in this Knicks versus Cavs series. This is what the people have been waiting for. The Berman prediction. Here we go.
Yeah, listen, I heard your prediction with Dexter on the on our their SNY podcast with the New York Post. And I know that you took the Knicks.
Knicks in 6.
In 6, yeah. But I'm going exactly reverse. I'm gonna, if Julius was healthy, if it was 100%, where I knew what Julius would be about, I would say the Knicks in 7. But because Julius's situation is such in flux, I don't know what kind of Julius is going to be on the court. I have a lot of respect for the Cavaliers roster with Donovan, Garland. I think Mobley is a great player. I think Allen is an underrated player. I'm going to have to take, especially with the home court advantage, I know how loud that building can get during the playoffs, during the LeBron era. I'm going to have to go Cavaliers in 6. Oof. But I think every game is going to be close, and a couple of possessions, coming down to a couple of possessions, and that's where Donovan, I feel, is going to lift the Cavs to more victories than the Knicks. And I say that I'm rooting for the Knicks. If I'm a betting man and I'm going online to bet, I'm going to have to take the Cavaliers.
Oof. Oh, man, the chat.
Sorry to say.
The chat might be launching tomatoes at you, Berman. They were throwing flowers when you got here. They might be throwing tomatoes on the way out with that prediction. Like I said, I agree with you. I think the health of Julius is imperative for this team to win. If he's not healthy, I don't think the Knicks win. But I'm going to go on the assumption that it's just a sprained ankle. Yes, there will be a little bit of rust, but he should be ready by game 1. And I feel like the Knicks bench is what's gonna swing this thing. And in crunch time, I'm putting it in 11's hands and see where it goes. I think it'll be a tough series, but I'm going Knicks in 6, man.
Yeah. I heard your interview, and when you I thought you were going to say Knicks in 7. When you said Knicks in 6, I was a little surprised. But no, listen. If that happens, it's no shock. I think every game does come down to the final couple of minutes. Maybe there'll be one blowout in there, but I think this is going to be a great series. It's going to be great TV with Donovan Mitchell going against his hometown team that did not pull the trigger last summer.
There it is, Mark. And one more time, hold up that gift that your wife got for you, man. So just hold that up.
Yeah, I just got it a few days ago. I don't know if you can see it on, but yeah, a very touching gift by my wife, who was amused by that little exchange with the Knicks center.
And with that prediction, quite apropos to end the show on that note, man. So, Mark, we definitely appreciate you giving us some time, man. We'll let you get back to the tennis ball court. Enjoy Florida. Retirement's looking good on you, man, and we appreciate the time, man.
Thanks so much, CP. I really appreciate you inviting me and remembering me. That's very touching, and you're doing an incredible job, and I feel that you and Dexter, next year, maybe you could do a podcast for the New York Post on the side.
There we
if
go.
You have any time, but the New York Post hasn't had a podcast in a couple of years. So
yeah, we got to bring it back. We got to bring Big Apple Buckets back, man.
Exactly.
There it is.
All right.
Mark, enjoy the day, man. Thanks again.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Marc Berman of the New York Post. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. How'd you guys feel about that, man? Mark is going Nick Cavs in 6. Oof. I saw the tomatoes flying. We don't like that, Mark. You can come back anytime, man. Great show. This is what I wanted to do for the matinee crowd, man. We want to do all these live streams this week. We're going to try to do them during the day to get more people involved, get our friends from across the pond, some action, some live shows. And the phone lines will be up, man. Call us up, 657-383-1509, or the KFTV Discord. At 2 p.m., in just about an hour, I will be on with Ian Begley and Ramona Shelbourne on SNY's YouTube channel. So check us out over there. Let me drop the link for you guys in the chat real quick. So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. A quick preview session, man. I can't wait for this series. They asked me to jump out the window. I'm jumping, man. I'm jumping. And I'm rocking with Julius. In 30, we trust. We need you back. Need you back to win the series. What do you guys think? What were your predictions? What are your predictions in this series? I want to shout out my guy, Got You Open, man. Not just a franchise channel member, but he gives franchise channel memberships away, I guess, to his peers, his friends, his family. So looks like he sent 4 of these he gifted 4 of these. So we definitely appreciate his support. Shout out to Got You Open, man. Shout out to Got You Open. So here's the lineup once again. I'll be on with Ian and Ramona Shelbourne in just about an hour. Then tonight we'll be back, the Holy Trinity of Knicks Fan TV, CP, Alex, JD, for a mailbag Q&A playoff edition. So come with your questions. Knicks Weekly will be back tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern time. The content is ready, man. We got guests for Tuesday. We got guests for Wednesday. We got guests for Thursday. And we got shows for Friday too, man. So it's going to be action-packed. Stay tuned also for an announcement on the Game 1 watch party. 4040 is where it's going to be. So stay tuned for the link to RSVP. And I'm telling you, man, we getting ready. We are getting ready. All roads lead to this Knicks versus Cavs series, and I'm looking forward to it, man. So we'll see you in a little bit. Great show, everybody.